Hello friends and family, welcome to Come Sit at My Table. My name's Tom, my wife Melissa is videoing for us today. We are not at home, as you can tell if you've watched our other videos. We are in Florida in a rental house. And even though we're on vacation, we still cook. Today I'm making a chocolate pie. I've already baked my crust. I just used a refrigerated Pillsbury crust that I rolled out, put in my pie plate, and baked in the oven for 12 minutes. So we'll set that to the side. Now we're going to make our filling for the chocolate pie. So let's turn our heat, well, let's not turn it on yet. Let's wait till we get this mixed up. We're going to put in 2.5 cups of sugar, 6 tablespoons of cocoa. This is just Hershey's cocoa. And you know I want to get every speck of that in there. All right. We're going to add 2/3 of a cup of cornstarch, and that will serve to thicken our pie filling so that it's nice and thick and sliceable. And we certainly want to make sure we get all of that in there. My left-handedness gets in the way of the camera, doesn't it?
All right, we'll figure it out.
And we need 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Not much, just a little bit. If you don't have 1/4 teaspoon measure, just do a few pinches. All right. Now, we have 4 cups of whole milk, and we're going to stir in about half of that or so. Let's get the dry ingredients combined here. I think if you whisk together your sugar, cocoa, cornstarch, and salt, it just helps everything to dissolve better in the milk. If it's not whisked together, they kind of tend to lump up, especially the cocoa. I think those sugar crystals kind of help break up that cocoa and just helps it dissolve a little better. All right, so we're going to stir in about half of our milk. We'll whisk that in, and I'll try not to make a mess. By the way, I normally do this in a saucepan, but I didn't bring any saucepans with me. And there wasn't really a saucepan here in this rental house that was the right size to do this with. So I'm doing it in my skillet. And there's nothing wrong with doing it in the skillet. I'm sure it'll work just fine. I don't know any reason in the world that wouldn't work. In fact, I was telling Melissa, I think it might work even better in a non-stick skillet than just a regular saucepan.
That looks pretty already.
Mm-hmm. Just have to make sure to get that cornstarch and cocoa dissolved really well. And it's starting to dissolve here. Okay, let's put in the rest of our milk. And work on dissolving every speck of that cornstarch, especially. You want to make sure that cornstarch is dissolved because it does not dissolve well in hot liquids. it just clumps up and
It's kind of opposite of what most things dissolve.
yeah, it dissolves much better in cold. But now the cocoa will dissolve really well in the hot liquid. Okay, so that's dissolved pretty well. We're going to stir in our 6 egg yolks. They also will help to thicken the filling, as well as give it a really rich flavor. I did use jumbo eggs, mainly because the whites will give me plenty of meringue. And when you separate your eggs, make sure you save those whites. You want those whites because we're going to make a meringue to top this pie with. And I went ahead and separated those before we turned on the camera because I didn't think you needed to see me separate eggs. It's a pretty easy thing to do. Okay. Now, we're going to turn on our fire. Turn it on about medium. And let it start to cook. Now, I will tell you that I'm not used to this stove.
Makes us miss gas when we're cooking on electric again, doesn't
It
it?
certainly does. Certainly does. And I'm not used to this stove. It doesn't heat the same way. I'm going to clean up my mess a little bit right here while we're cooking. So, even though I'm not used to this stove, I think it will cook up just fine. And all we're looking for now is for it just to thicken up. And that's going to take a few minutes. So, we will continue to cook the pie filling. And when it starts to thicken, and it's getting close to being ready, we will come back and let you see what it looks like. All I'm going to do is let it cook and stir it. I will continue to whisk and stir until it starts to thicken, and we'll be right back. All right, you can see that it is thickening up. We're almost there. Oh yeah.
It smells so good.
It's looking good. And I'm sloshing a little bit out. That's what happens when you do it in a skillet. All right. We are pretty much there. So we're going to remove it from the fire. Finish it right here. It's got just a little bit that needs to thicken up. It smells wonderful. I'm just going to hit it with the whisk a time or two. Then we're going to stir in 4 tablespoons of butter. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And 2 teaspoons of vanilla. 1, 2. Now, I will tell you that it took about, 7-8 minutes for it to thicken. And this butter is going to give it some richness. Helps it to smooth out some. Makes it really silky. And even though I made a little bit of a mess on the stove, sloshing it out, I really like the way it worked in the skillet. Worked really well. Okay, remove this, and we will fill our pie shell. I think I'm going to try to move it right here where you can maybe see it easier. all we're going to do is just spoon it right in there. I'm trying to do this backhanded so you can see. I'm not sure I'm doing a very good job here. Man, that smells good. I'm gonna switch to my spatula so that I can get it all out there. Now watch me try to do this right-handed. You might see something for America's Funniest Home Videos here. With me doing it right-handed. Babe.
Yes.
I'm not leaving you a whole lot in there to scrape out and lick the pan, am I?
No need. That's all right.
Okay. So, I'm just going to kind of smooth it out a little bit. We will let this cool completely. I'll just leave it set out here on the counter. Let it completely cool, and then we will come back and make a meringue to top it with, and let that cool for a little bit before we slice it and eat it. All right, that is our filled pie shell with a chocolate cream pie. I don't know, is this a cream pie? I don't know. It's a chocolate pie.
I don't know what makes the difference.
Yeah, I don't either.
Maybe we can
All
research that.
We're going to let this cool, and we'll be back to make the meringue. Our pie has cooled to pretty much room temperature, and so now we're ready to make the meringue to put on top. To make the meringue, we will use the 6 egg whites that we saved from the egg yolks that we put in the pie filling. We will need 3/4 cup of sugar, 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, and we'll talk about why we do that in just a moment. And then we will finish with 1/2 teaspoon of cream of tartar. Let's start by putting our tablespoon of cornstarch into our sugar. I don't know if you've ever noticed pie meringues that weep. They get little beads of, it looks like some kind of liquid. It's actually sugar that forms on them. That's because that sugar and the moisture from the air collects on the meringue. This cornstarch being added to the sugar will help kind of alleviate that moisture from the sugar and the moisture from the air collecting on that meringue. It will just help it not to weep so bad. It doesn't mean you won't have any weeping, but it will help it not to weep quite so badly. Now, we're going to stir these together because we want to break up that cornstarch. We don't want it to go in with big lumps. If I had a sifter here, I would have sifted that, but I didn't have one, so I'm just going to stir it into the sugar, and the granules of sugar will break up that cornstarch and keep it from being in lumps. That looks really good. All right, so let's start our egg whites. We want those to be at room temperature. You have to make sure that your mixing bowl has no grease or no oil in it, or those egg whites will not whip up. So here we go. And we're going to let those whip until they start to become foamy. You want them to get a little frothy before you start to add the sugar and cornstarch. And once they get a little volume to them, we will start putting in the sugar 1 tablespoon at a time. Hopefully you can see that it is starting to get foamy. You want to turn it up just a little bit. The faster you go, the more it will whip air into those egg whites and turn that into meringue. And now we can start adding our sugar. We'll just add it slowly. A little at a time. Give it time to whip in. Let it get dissolved. Keep adding the sugar just a little at a time. Giving it time to get in there and do its thing. You can see that the egg whites are getting thicker. And now we're going to add our half teaspoon of Cream of Tartar. Let's check our egg whites. We want them to be whipped to stiff peaks, which means when we pick it up, it will hold a stiff peak at the top. So if we pull some up out of here and I turn it over, no, it's not there yet. It's still too soft. So on we go. That whisk is just whipping air, creating little bubbles. Stiffening the egg whites. Once it comes to stiff peaks, we will put it on top of our pan, and then we will bake it in a 400-degree oven for about 8 minutes or until the meringue is lightly browned on top. Let's check it again and see how we're doing. It's getting closer. Oh, look at that. That's pretty stiff. You can see that you can pull it up. Let's let it go just a few more seconds. We certainly do not want it to collapse those egg whites. And it could go for just another few seconds. And I think that's probably about it. Let's try it. Pretty good. All right. Oops. So, let's take our bowl. Move our mixer. And we will grab a spoon here. I miss having my equipment from home, I'll tell you. Now, when you put meringue on a pie, you certainly want to seal your meringue to the edges of the pie. And that means you take your meringue and push it up against your pie crust. That helps to seal it and help it to kind of keep from pulling away from your crust. So we will just push it up in there. seal it really well to our crust. A little more right over here. Okay. We've got that sealed to our crust all the way around. I'm gonna grab my spatula here. See if I can find it. And we will pile the rest of this up. Now, it is my opinion that you can't have too much meringue on a pie. So I believe in piling it up. You don't want any air bubbles down in there, by the way. So you want to make sure you're pushing it down in there. Look at that. You want me to leave you a little bit in the bowl?
Oh, you know, I wouldn't mind to lick the spatula.
Okay.
It's always my favorite part of the bowl.
Now, our youngest daughter is the queen of making peaks on meringue.
She likes them pointed and curly.
She likes it like this. I'll be honest and tell you, I don't. I would rather have it swirled. But when she was growing up, it was always her job to put the peaks on the meringue because she just felt like she had to have peaks. So that was her job. All right. Get every bit of that on there. Now we're going to put this in an oven, 400-degree oven, for approximately 8 minutes or until it is browned. I don't like that right there. We need some swirls here. Peaks and valleys. Okay. So in we go. When this is finished and the meringue is browned, we will come back and let you see it. We'll be back in just a few minutes. All right, our pie with the meringue on it has been in the oven for 8 minutes, and there's the timer. So let's take it out. And I think 8 minutes was just about perfect. There is our pie. As you can tell, the meringue has, ooh, that's hot. The meringue has browned really nicely. Looks good. Now we have to let this cool completely before we can cut it. So it's going to be a couple of hours probably, just to make sure it's completely cool. And when we cut it, we'll come back and show you a piece of pie. We'll be back soon. The pie and the meringue have cooled, so it's time to cut a slice. Let's eat. We will wipe our knife blade just to keep it neat. Should have heated the blade. That would have made it slice a little easier, I think. Let's see if we can get it out of here. The first piece is always the hardest. Ooh. All right.
That looks yummy.
Yum, yum.
Good thing we have some friends here with us to help share it. Or
Absolutely.
tempted to eat way too much of that.
All right. Here we go. Nobody else should have to eat this. I think this one will just be all mine. That's delicious. All right. Thank you for watching our videos. If you would, please click the thumbs up. It's just the like button to say you liked our video. Click the subscribe button if you've not already done that, and the little notification bell. That just helps us grow our channel. And if you would, please share our video. Don't forget that Melissa will put the written recipe right below this video. If you'll click on the recipe title, it will expand the box and you'll find the written recipe there. As always, we appreciate that you watch our videos, and you are always welcome to come sit at my table. Have a great day.